So before we begin, I just want to briefly introduce our moderator, Donna Brown-Hardnett. Esquire is a mother of a 17-year-old and a 23-year-old. She married her husband, Stacy, 31 years ago. And since that time, she's enjoyed a robust career in banking, finance, law, and as an attorney. Recently, she retired from service in the federal government, where she served as a civil rights and housing advocate. And now she's pivoted full-time into entrepreneurship. In her business, she uses her influence and her network to help businesses maximize profits with minimal risk. She creates LLCs, protects them with trademarks, and markets them to small women and minority-owned businesses. The result is an increase of representation in these underserved populations, as well as economic empowerment through strategic business collaborations and joint venture partnerships. She respects people from all walks of life and believes that when ordinary people unite, they can achieve extraordinary things. And so with that, I will turn it over to her.
Oh my goodness, thank you, Sandra. That was so nice. So, so for the purposes of this room, I'm going to go with my new name, which is just Auntie Donna Brown. Auntie Donna Brown. And I go with that. You like that, huh? I go with that because I have stepped into a new leadership role. My kids are grown. I've done my career, right? And so now I do talk to a lot of people about entrepreneurship and opportunities and what life can look like going forward. And so consider me your attorney auntie. Auntie Donna Brown. And so for the first takeaway, before I get to my guests, I wanted to give you a takeaway. And for the participants, takeaway number one, today is the first day of the rest of your life. It really is. It's the first day of the rest of your life. And it's going to be a mindset change. So first, let me come on over to Miguel Colon. Am I saying that correctly?
Oh, you are just wonderful, Auntie Donna. I've been called Miguel Colon for so many years. Having somebody actually pronounce it correctly is wonderful.
Well, I am so glad to meet you. I don't have the benefit of all of the resumes that Sandra does. And so I don't know if you would like, I know you're from St. Mary's and that you're with entrepreneurship, which is very exciting. Would you like to share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Miguel Colon. I'm the department chair of the entrepreneurship department at Chabot College in Hayward, California. I created the entrepreneurship program at Chabot 11 years ago, 12 years ago. After spending about 25 years as an entrepreneur. I built a bunch of technology companies, sold 3 of them. And then sort of when I got to the point in my life where I could kind of decide what I wanted to do, I decided I wanted to go back to my first college, which was Chabot College. And so I am a professor of entrepreneurship and business at Chabot College. But I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a team of people and we start crazy stuff all the time. That's just part of what we do.
Awesome. Awesome. That's wonderful. So you're saying Chabot, is that part of, is it affiliated with St. Mary's at all or no?
Oh, no. I got my MBA at St. Mary's College. Chabot College we're part of the California Community College system. We're in Hayward, which is let's say in between Oakland and San Jose. 80% of our campus is of color. 15% African American, almost 45% Latino. So we're in I'm part of the Bay Area.
Outstanding. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're from the community colleges, because people in the audience, that's one of the things you need to know. Life after high school, if you didn't go right into college, that community college option as well as the entrepreneurial option are things I would be talking to my nieces and nephews about. So I'm going to just move on over. We're going to come back. And John Wilson, I believe you're from West Angeles Church. Did I get that correct?
Yes, I'm Deacon John Wilson, Education and Enrichment Director of West Angeles Church for nearly 20 years in some form or another. It's position kind of grew around me. And I agree with you, Auntie Brown, about that. We'll talk about it later, about your perspective on your nieces and nephews and your children. We've got to think differently now. It's not the same world it was when we came out. We'll talk about that in a minute. I run, believe it or not, programs to get students to affordably to college. and into careers. I'm also interested in that because I'm the enrichment director and job opportunities and all kind of things like that. I'm more higher and higher percentage of students now are realizing that our rising costs of college have cheapened the liberal arts degree, where it has actually not any value anymore. We'll get to that later. I'm sure we'll get to that, but I always help students get to college affordably if they have this in their career path.
John, I love you. Okay, I really do, because you already are speaking right on point.
Yeah.
I actually am one of those people who back in the day did go to college and get, and I got a law degree. But somebody came to me this week and said, my son got into law school and it's going to cost $300,000.
There you go.
Do you recommend that he should do that? And I know, yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But let's back it up. Let's back it up let's back it up. What I would love is, Sandra, if we could kind of just hit the chat. I'd like this to be a little interactive. Want to know who's out there. See a lot of names I know, some I don't. And if you could just type in the chat if you are a parent or if you are a student. Can you let us know? Yeah, or I guess maybe you could be a young adult. You could be neither, but just chat and let us know, type in who you are, and let us know, because I want to know, are we talking mostly to parents today? Are we talking mostly to young entrepreneurs in the making or young adults? So do we have any, and if it comes in, let us know, Sandra, as it comes in. The reason this is important is we got to know where we're starting so we can know where we're going to go.
Yes.
Absolutely. So just off the bat, we have a couple people involved in nonprofits, one of whom is a parent. We have a student in 11th grade, another student in 11th grade. So I think we're going to have a good mix here of parents, students who are, about to be done with their high school careers. But yeah, thank you everyone who's joining in the chat, and y'all feel free to continue to start talking as well. And I'll just keep anyone who's.
Well, thank you, Sandra. Yeah, I appreciate it, and keep it going in the chat. And if you have any questions from anybody, let us know. Okay, and just put it out there. So I like this mix. Okay, I really like it because I think when you get in 11th grade, okay, I'm telling you this really quick story. I have a 17-year-old and a 23-year-old, and both of them, as good of a parent as I'd like to think I am, and my husband would like to think he was, they fired us. They fired us from parenthood, okay? They fired us, but they fired us because it's a time when you need help, but you need to start taking accountability for what you want to do. And so in the 11th grade, and for people who are in high school area, I'm gonna challenge you as a second takeaway, to start discovering the brand of you. Who are you? When people come to you and they say, hey, Anna Marie, what do they think? And that happens not just as an adult, but it happens at all ages. So I'm gonna kind of just, with our panelists, just kind of throw out so we can get the brand of you, because we want people to start thinking in terms of, you are a brand. You are Nike, Pepsi, all of those brands together. You are the brand of you. So I'll go first, and then I'm gonna pass it off to Miguel and John. The brand of me, Donna, I really had to think about that, right? Because I've done so much. I'm 54 years old, but I came up with Auntie Donna Brown is kind of my pseudo name because it really kind of encompasses the brand of me. I'm a person who believes in faith, family, finance, education, excellence. And then I thought, you're kind of boring. Faith, family, finance, education, excellence. Don't forget fun. And so the brand of me now involves helping build platforms for people who are struggling with their faith, struggling with their family, struggling with their finance, so on and so forth. And so that's the brand of me. Miguel, the brand of Miguel Colon, tell us about it.
Yeah, so I guess I've got a sort of if you were to ask my students what my brand is, and I think that's probably, so I've got two perspectives. One, I've got three kids. I've got an 11th grader, a young woman. That's some work. And because 11th grade, you've got, all the attitude, but you've also got all the anxiety associated with sort of being the person that's getting ready to become an adult, if you will, right? Just 18, you graduate from high school, everybody assumes you're an adult. So I think for my kids, I think, my brand is sort of the supportive, painful nurturer, and, supportive, but, because I try to encourage them to, to pursue the things they want to pursue. Painful because I tend to be pretty relentless, in making sure that they stay on track, because it's really easy to sort of wander out to left field, right? It is even for me to sort of stay on track. I've got to remind myself, hey, Colon, go back to work, right? Every once in a while. And, and I think my students would probably say the same thing. So I'm not a traditional academic, right? So I didn't go to college right out of high school. I dropped out of high school in 11th grade. So my dad's from Puerto Rico, has a 9th grade education. My mom grew up in the projects in Oakland, had a 10th grade education. And so I made it to 11th grade, so I felt pretty good, right? And I actually didn't go back to finish my bachelor's degree till I was 38. So the 20 years were spent sort of as an entrepreneur. So I don't bring sort of that, a traditional academic to my classroom. So my students feel zero judgment, and they feel zero pressure that they're talking to somebody that is maybe better than they are, because they did have sort of a traditional educational path. And so I would think my kids probably have that same perspective, that I'm a nurturing, hard instructor, because once we've got clarity, and I don't know, you should probably ask Katrina Mitchell, because she's one of my former students, and she's the reason why I'm here. She's one of my top 3. She might be my top 1, but I need to go back and evaluate the data. But Katrina's a rock star.
Wow, that is super cool. So what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've got different brands according to where you are. And I like that, because in your family circumstance, you have a role as a nurturer and kind of a PIA, a pain in the butt, to help them go to the next level. But then when you come to school, you have a brand as a unique professor. And this is really great, because your brand represents, and I love the way that you said non-judgment, because you did not come from a traditional background. It's not like it was like 12th grade and then college, right? You went later, much, much later. You did things your own way. And so you don't have necessarily expectations or judgments on people that stop people from trying something outside the box. This is huge. This is huge.
I try to tell my message to so I've got 2 sons that are freshmen, both at Chabot College, and one's 18, one's 19. Oh no, one's 19, one's 20. Better get that right. And I try to tell them education does not occur between the ages of 18 and 22. It just doesn't. And I think that a lot of our kids have been sort of sold that. And okay, when am I done with school? And I keep telling my kid, never, right? I remember my son when he was 8, how many more grades do I have? I'm like, I don't know, pick a number, 30, and so it doesn't matter whether you start now or you start in 20 years. And at the community college, we get obviously students that are 16, and we get students that are 65. So it's a very different sort of group.
I love this. I love this. So that non-traditional route, this brand concept, it's evolving, right? It's evolving. When people hear your name, I want to know, like, if you're in the chat, throw out maybe 2 or 3 things. When people hear your name, what might they say about you or think about you? And if you're in the chat, throw it out. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to come back to John. John, tell me, You know, when people hear John Wilson, what do they think? Tell me about the brand of Deacon John Wilson.
Not sure what they think. I go from what I think I'm doing. It's leading, teaching, and helping. And, that's really what I'm committed to. And it's led me into areas of enrichment and growth, helping people to get in position to grow. I'm like the coach that calls the plays to get them to the goal line, and hopefully they'll score. And that's where I see myself. And the interesting thing is, for my 11th graders, I'm not going to, if you ever work with me, I'm not going to ask you your major. Major is the most overrated question to ask. I like to ask them what they want to do. Why are you here? Because see, if you go to college without that, you're just going to waste the money anyway, and you'll just walk in circles. So I see myself as lead, teach, help. And I think the people would say the same. I think the helping has different components to it. And that's what I'm all about today, more than ever before.
Wow. See, I love this. I love this. And people, and whoever's listening, this is part of your job. This is why today is the first day of the beginning of your life, okay? Because we all come from, I'm an attorney, heck, and my kids have both parents in the family. I tell them, guess what? I'm so sorry, but you come from a traumatized household. You come from different set of issues of dysfunction that were passed down from me, from my parents, from their parents, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not trying to in any way lighten someone's situation and you have an extreme situation where you're homeless or whatever it is. But guess what? Auntie Donna had an IEP plan in high school, okay? I had an IEP plan, and I was brown, and I was one of 2 brown kids in my elementary school, and they had no expectations of me. But I had expectations of me. And so, and you being the first day in for the rest of your life, one of the things when people don't have expectations of you, or you don't fit in the box, then there's an accountability component, y'all. And this is the third takeaway. You are responsible for who you will be, okay? Maybe somebody else contributed to who you were, but you got to take responsibility to the brand that you're building and who you will be, and just decide who that's going to be and go forward. I'm going to just kind of ask Sandra if she will share a couple of things people have said in the chats about what people think when they hear their names.
Yeah, so we have from Winter said that when people hear their name, they think leader, creative, passionate, service. I don't know if anyone else is motivated to include now that we've heard a little bit about y'all's personal brands. I know for myself, I was like trying to think of the words, and I was definitely.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I think definitely some of them would be driven, empathetic, motivated towards justice, I would say is kind of like the foundation of that. But I love what you all were saying, like it's constantly evolving. It depends on the space you're in and who you're around and kind of what part of you they see. So I really love that. And everyone feel free to keep sharing, and I can share them again in a little bit if we
Awesome. And Miranda, I see she put in something. What'd she put?
Miranda said criminal rights, educator, parent, and encyclopedia.
Whoa, that's a good one. That's a good one. So that was one of my points, you guys. Look, what you don't know right now, when I was a kid, we did in fact use encyclopedias, right? You had to go and like look it up. Now, all you've got to do is Google some things. Just Google some things and reach out and make some relationships with people. So I want to ask, this time I'm going to go with John, and I have a few questions here. What are the opportunities that you feel like are open after high school for students that people should be considering today, Deacon Wilson?
Well, I'll try to keep that short. It's basically 3 paths today. There is a totally academic path of just getting your degree. But as I implied earlier, hopefully it'll be focused on building who you're going to be, and also getting a school that's very affordable, which right away shortens your list down tremendously. Because I think what's going on, I don't care who's really listening, but what's going on with private schools right now today and their cost is criminal. So I think that's an issue. And I unfortunately, I feel that way no matter who the private school is, unless you have extremely high grades, and only 1% of you will. So education is a pathway, but in parallel with the education, or even instead of, as I go to the second way, is you should find out what careers, what are you good at? What do you like? What bothers you about the world? This is going to be a clue to what you could do. So many careers could start off. When kids come to me, for example, want to do film, I say, go do film. There's at least 5 ways to make film now. Do the thing that you're called to do. Now, be careful, because sometimes your passion is your passion. And it's not what's going to put money in your mouth, but you might be able to get a clue from your passion. I would say, and the third way is for a lot of people is to get into programs. Just learn about the job market, learn what you can do, learn what careers you can have available to you. It isn't going to be always that standard linear 4 years of college and any kind of liberal arts degree, and then I can go get a fancy job somewhere like it was for us, Auntie. I mean, it was very different for us. I went to George Washington University, came out, I was an engineer, and engineering is one of those ones you probably still need a degree for. But nevertheless, I wish I had known then that I love to teach and I love to help people. I wouldn't have gotten that degree. Who knows? I would have had a 20-year head start on what I'm doing now. You never know. So I think those are the 3 primary places. Don't put all your eggs in that 4-year degree, though. While you're getting that 4-year degree, in parallel, do some stuff. Get with a program like I hope Miguel talks about in a minute, and learn about ways you can make money and ways you can do things while you're in college yet.
Love that, Deacon. Yeah, love that. Love that. So I hear you saying education doesn't look like what it used to look back in our day. Traditional education is going to a schoolhouse and learning, whether it be your high school or your college or whatever. But now things have kind of evolved, and there are lots of other ways that you can learn, but you've got to be engaged. This is not something that's just going to be poured into your head, right? You've got to know your resources are, and you've got to take accountability. And that's why the statement of today is the first day of your life is important, because we need to know how to find out what the opportunities are. And we're going to come back to you, because I like that you said a lot of people come to you about film and passion, but then you talk to them about passion versus being able to provide for oneself. Okay.
Exactly. You always have your passion. You always have the passion. You always have that. Your passion.
Yeah.
Keep
you
it
always
with you
have that
while you're doing it. And that's fine.
So we're going to come back to that, but I really want to go to Miguel Colon. One of the things I'm so excited is I've been hearing about a lot of super great programs in our community colleges. I think our 2-year community colleges is one of the best kept secrets in the whole United States. I mean, I really do. And so I just want to bring this to you, the whole question about what are the opportunities for youth after high school? Miguel, help us out.
So I'm gonna sort of tell you the same thing I tell my kids, and so it's very interesting. People sort of invite an academic, if you will, to participate in one of these things, and the assumption is I'm the go to college guy. I am not the go to college guy, and so I have 3 children. All 3 of my kids are adopted. All 3 are African American. We got Brandon when he was 7. We adopted Amel, we call him E, when he was 15, and then we adopted his sister, Charissa, when she was 15. So my son, Brandon, has a very different experience, and we're all foster kids. Brandon has a very different experience because he grew up with my wife and I. And so very different sort of approach. He does not have the anxiety that a traditional foster kid does. And my other 2, E and Charissa, they both have anxiety because normally there's an expiration date on that I'm being a foster kid. And so what I try to get them to do is to exhale a little bit and to stop worrying so much about what you're going to be doing 10 years from now, and to take some time to sort of get to know you and what are those things that motivate you. And then when you finally identify some things that interest you, then go educate the heck out of that. And what you may find, because we don't find ourselves on one job, right? Auntie Donna, you started off doing one thing and you've done several since. I mean, I started off as a warehouseman, and then, you know, by an act of God, I ended up at Morgan Stanley. And I mean, how the heck do you get to be an investment banker as a college dropout with no degree? And then I went into corporate finance and I was doing mergers and acquisitions. And I'm like, how am I getting to do this? Or we have no idea where we're going to go. We really have no idea. I'm still not sure. I'm 55 years old. I feel like I've got a pretty good idea what I'm going to be doing in 5 years, but who knows, right? And so I think what kids need to do right now is exhale. What parents need to do right now is exhale and give these kids a little bit of time to get their footing, right? That doesn't mean you get to sit in the garage and play PlayStation and smoke pot all day. That's unacceptable, right? But it does mean that what you really should be doing is trying to experiment. And so I encourage people to use the community college system as a place to go figure stuff out. So I've got one son, E, pretty darn good with math, very analytical, very driven, very focused. Brandon, more of the theater kid, a little bit more loosey-goosey, right? E is he's part of the STEM program. Brandon is experimenting and he's taking philosophy classes. And, you know, when we get back on campus, he's going to study theater, right? Sharissa, my 11th grader, is off the charts bright. And so what I've encouraged her to do, you just need to start figuring out what interests you. And so I think, you know, this whole high school, you're a grown-up, you need to go do something is maybe a disservice for our kids. The other thing is that if you are of color, it is not fair. It is not fair out there at all. If you're thinking you're going to go get a job, if you're going to go get a degree at the CSU, whatever, and then you're going to go get a job at some Fortune 500 company, you're going to be very disappointed. There's a bunch of people that pursued that path and now they're all working at Starbucks and they're applying for internships still, and they're 25, 26 years old. So I think we have to sort of take a look at the reality of where we are and begin to sort of think about how can I pursue those things that interest me in an environment that's going to work for me. And for me, it you know, I mean, at high school, I fell through all the cracks that were present, right? And so entrepreneurship sort of became that thing that allowed me to go sort of exercise some of my you know, anger, if you will, right? Because if you turn anger into energy, you're going to be rich. And so I was able to focus that a little bit, and it worked. I was able to do some stuff, but not trying to do it in an environment where people were looking at me and judging at me based on who I was or what my name was. I remember when I got hired at Morgan Stanley, they asked me, they said, "You go by Michael, right? Because Miguel works in the mailroom," right? And this is 1991. And so, you know, the psychology of some of these things, especially when you're of color, it's different. And so you got to be mindful of that. And so what are the environments you want to go to where you're going to feel supported? And I think that probably is, you know, that's why I teach entrepreneurship, man. I'm like, you know, you're going and getting a job at Procter & Gamble as a marketing manager. We know they're going to be recruiting from Berkeley and UCLA, and we're pretty darn sure we know what those kids are going to look like that they hire. And so what are the options for kids that look like us, that have our names, that have our backgrounds? And so I think that we need time to be able to go pursue that. And I know I look like a big white guy, but you know, I get a pretty good tan and I can dance, right? And so that's what I got from my dad. I get this crazy hair, big nose. And,
that's my guy.
But all my people, they look like John, right? All my cousins, they look like John. So I just got more of my mom than my dad.
I love it, Miguel. Miguel, I absolutely love what you're saying on so many levels. And I'm going to swing back to John, but I just want to insert right here. Now, this is Auntie Donna, your attorney auntie, coming out. I've had the good fortune to have advised a lot of people on a lot of very serious projects, none more serious than the project of each participant here today developing his or herself. because your brand is as important as any I've ever consulted on. And so for me, I have a practical perspective. What is it that you're interested in? What is you're good at? But I also need you to keep in mind, what can you make money at legally? What can you legally make money at? And what's the training requirement for that? And it's very, very important, because in the next 12 months, some of you will be on your own. And so what is your financial plan? A short range goal might be, like Tiffany has said, get a suitcase or find a place to live, a room to rent, or whatever it is. But a longer term goal might be to go to a community college and get a 2-year degree and become a nurse or so much in the health fields. I implore you to consider everything from radiation and scans and all these kind of things. There's so much. But what do you like to do? What can you make money at? And if you don't know that, then we need to talk about some ways for you to start figuring that out. So that's why I'm circling back to you, John, because as you teach and reach, tell me your 3 principles.
Lead, teach, help.
Lead, teach, and help. Can you help with the 11th graders who are really just trying to figure it out practically? Because it's great to talk about all this wonderful stuff, but I'm gonna be honest, if I'm really kind of living out the back of my car, I can't really hear you too good. So I need you to help me understand how I can get in the sky and what can I do to put some money in so I can at least get that room to rent for the short run, and then for a longer term plan as well.
Right. So we've actually thought a lot about that. I'll put it in the chat, but our website, we have a career page that's very good. Miguel mentioned something very, very true as far as our Black and brown students, that you're not trying to just get a degree, go to a boardroom situation. However, since the occurrences of 2020, I have seen way more programs coming to me. There's a lot of money out there for minority training and careers. On our careers page, we have some cool stuff where you can learn how to be an electrician, an air conditioning person, all various things, different types of careers you can learn in parallel with your 2-year degree even. How about that? And even nursing, there's a way to become a nurse without a 4-year degree. So you really should get into that if you want to. So the world is open for you. We have those things on our site. And now, how do I get them to see it? Again, I discourage discussion of major. I want to talk more about, we do workshops on how to find out why you're here, why you're created, what's your purpose, what do you like? These are areas of emphasis. We're adding a lot more of surveying of the students for that as well, and to help them and guide them. When I do my college readiness, I'm finding out what they like, what they want to do, what bothers them. Those are all things that guide 11th, 10th, and we're looking at even 9th. And those grades below 9th grade, you start just showing them different careers. Have people speak from different careers. Get them thinking about career at a very young age. And I think it becomes a lot easier for us when we get to that point of the college decision, which is the key moment where they need to hit that fork in the road Miguel was talking about. I like that so very much, to start thinking about those things. So I think that's what it's going to be. But I'll put our website up there. It's a lot of good stuff, videos and everything in there that will help with that.
This is good stuff. I really, really like it. And Sandra, if you have anything to share in terms of how you even came to work with Genesis Center, please share, because that's all a part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely grew up with that very traditional pathway laid out for me that y'all have been discussing, go to high school, go to college, start a career job, not something that you already know. And as soon as I graduated from Occidental College, small liberal arts school in Los Angeles, I was like, there are a lot of things I'm interested in. I have no idea how that becomes a career, because there's so many things that I think are put on people of well, if this needs to be a job where you are going to be able to move up, you're making a certain amount of money, you need to be, like Miguel said, with a company that has a certain reputation or an organization. And it took me I graduated about 2 years ago. I only started working with Genesee about 3 months ago. And that was kind of when, and it took me from that time I graduated till a couple months before I started working here to figure out that this was the field I wanted to be in, doing violence prevention with youth, specifically around domestic violence. You know, I had to take like 6 months being in another job and trying things out and being like, I know I want to be involved with like helping communities that are underserved and empowering people. I just don't know where yet. So everything that y'all are saying, like, I wish was stuff that I had heard, even though I, you know, had a supportive environment and like had a lot of resources available to me. There wasn't that discussion of like, take the time to figure it out, or like, it's okay if you don't know exactly right away. So I really love everything that y'all have been saying.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate what you're saying, that even someone who supposedly has the resources is struggling, right?